Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Mic Drop Show, and I am Mike Morawski. We talk here every week on Wednesday, where we turn real estate into clear moves, clear education, clear knowledge that you can use today in today's environment. And one thing I want to say is that we are in a changing real estate market, and this is a time for you to get involved. The way that we've played real estate over the last few years is changing, and it's changing right now in front of us. And, I want to ask you, are you somebody who's going to take advantage of that change, or are you going to let it blow by you just like the wind? Well, I'm excited this morning. Today I have a guest with me. My guest is Joe Holmes. Joe's a real estate broker, mentor, and investor. 40 years in the real estate trenches, buying, selling, and stacking doors. Here's what I can say is I've been in the real estate business 30 years. I thought I was an OG, but Joe serves the state of California. Broker. He's a broker with Palego, of the fastest growing online brokerage with over 350 agents in California, with mostly focused on investing. Joe has a toolkit that covers fix and flip, buy and hold, land trust, equity sharing. He lives creative finance, subject to seller finance and assumable loans. So you land property with a little or no money down. And you guys know that this is what I love, and this is what we've been on lately. So this morning's conversation, we're going to break it down for you. Joe's a proven negotiator. He looks for strong terms and opens doors to off-market deals, foreclosures, and land contracts, and has a handful of pocket listings. He built selling your home in any market, an internet direct mail and targeted ad system that moves homes fast and for top dollar. And here's just a quick note. Education only runs the numbers. You've got to look at everything that you're doing and take the action. Get the education and take the action. But today we're going to dig into creative deal structures, negotiating, playing to eliminate the risk, creating control, and repeatable processes that'll help you continue to build your business. Welcome, Joe, to the show this morning. Joe, how are you?
I'm doing great, but who was that you were describing? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, you know what? And I had to throw that comment in there that, I've been in the business 30 years. I thought I was an OG, but 40 years. And that time most of that business has been investing.
Yeah, absolutely. And Mike, I hate to tell you, but in a couple of years, it'll be 50 years that I've been in the business.
Wow.
Yeah,
Holy cow.
long time. My dad started me out on this trek when I was young.
Yeah, Joe, and you know what? Speaking of that, when you think back, can you think of the first real estate deal you ever did?
Yeah, it was actually, I was 20 years old. I bought my first home to live in, what I call my bachelor pad. And that was in 1977. And I paid $35,000 for a 2-bedroom, 2-bath home here in Orange County.
Do you still own it?
No, gosh, I wish I did. Sold it right after I got married. My wife didn't want to live in my bachelor pad, so we ended up buying something else. But that same home today is probably, I'd say, close to $1 million.
Yeah. Isn't it interesting? There's that old Chinese proverb, Joe, that says, you can plant a tree today or you could have planted it 20 years ago. And, things continue to grow. So, whether you got in real estate 30 or 50 years ago, like you and I, or whether you get involved today, there's still a lot of opportunity in front of you in the real estate space.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I like doing now. I like teaching the younger generation, how to buy houses creatively, using seller financing, subject to financing, whatever's out there and available. I've been doing this again. The first investment that I bought right after I bought my house was a subject to deal. So, I've been doing subject to for close to 50 years now.
Wow. That's amazing. That's simply amazing. Hey, speaking of the first deal you ever did, um, what did you learn from that?
I think the biggest thing I learned is how to negotiate. It
Mm.
was a deal where the owner of the property was getting divorced, and they didn't want it was a condominium, and they didn't want it anymore. And they said, they put an ad in the paper. I remember papers. I think you and I remember papers. Nobody else
Oh
does.
yeah.
But they put an ad in the paper, take over my payment. And I said, well, what is that? I've never heard of that. So I called, and the lady said, well, I don't want this. You could just take over my payment. And back then it was an FHA loan, and you can still do that with FHA. You can assume FHA mortgages. But back then I literally just stepped in and negotiated that and took over the payment. I did have to go to the bank because there was a second on there. And back then you could actually go into a bank and talk to the bank president. It was a local bank, so it wasn't, Bank of America or Chase or anything like that. And I literally sat across from his desk and renegotiated the second, which was at 17% interest rate.
Ooh.
Yeah, remember that this was the Carter years, right at the end there, and then Reagan came in 1980, and started lowering all the interest rates. But yeah, it was really high, and I actually negotiated that down to 10% and extended the payment period out because it was coming due. And that was just incredible. Just, literally, I was actually there with my wife, and the guy said, well, we can't do that. We just can't do that. And I said, okay. I looked at my wife. I said, okay, let's go. By the time we hit the door, the guy goes, oh, wait. Yeah. Okay, I'll do it. So I just learned so much from just that one exposure to somebody that, he had a second on this property. There was not a lot of equity. I know he didn't want to foreclose. He would have lost money. So, he just was trying to get the best deal, and that the bulb went out in my head like, oh, okay, this is what it is about negotiating. It looks like I
Yeah.
had the stronger hand this time,
Yeah.
and won that. And believe it
Yeah.
or not, that one I still do have. I've owned that one for almost 50 years now.
Wow. It's crazy. Along the way, I'm sure you've refinanced that, pulled cash out tax free, continue to own it. It continues to pay for itself over and over again. And, there's probably a ton of equity in that house today.
Yeah, there is. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
absolutely. Yes. Mhm.
And that's the amazing thing about real estate. I think people get caught up in the fact that, I don't have money, or I don't know how to do this, or, I don't have the education, I don't have the credit. And really, when I got started, I didn't have any of that either. I didn't have money. I didn't have education. I went to a seminar. Do you remember Robert Allen?
Yes.
Oh
Yeah.
man, Robert Allen
Mhm.
was the first seminar I ever went to, and he hooked me. I mean, he hooked me into real estate, and it was just amazing the things he taught about no money down, other people's money, how to negotiate, the questions to ask the seller, and it's the same things that you and I teach people today,
Yeah.
on how to do more real estate. Hey, before we get too deep into that, though, I want you to tell people about Palego Real Estate and what that's all about. You have 350 agents in the state of California that work for you, or part of your brokerage. Talk a little bit about that.
Palego is basically an investor-friendly, agent-friendly brokerage. Our fees are very simple. We charge $85 a month, and you keep 100% of your commission, and we charge a transaction fee of $850, and that's it. And yes, I have agents up and down the state. I'm actually going up to the Bay Area in January to do some training up there with some of the agents. So I get around, San Diego, San Francisco. Obviously, I'm here in Orange County and LA, and I do a meetup every month here for investors and my agents as well.
Yeah.
So it's just a different way to become active in real estate, having your real estate license.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting what you said about investor friendly, because I remember, I got in real estate, early 90s. So a little bit after you. And, I remember being in a Century 21 office and all the agents were like, don't deal with investors. They're hard to deal with. You don't want to work with investors. And, I've always been the guy who goes the other way, right? If you tell me, to go in this direction, I'm going to go in this direction. And that's what I did. I worked with investors. 80%, 85% of the business that I did when I was a residential real estate agent, I did catering to the investor clientele out there. And I did really well. I mean, we sold 125 listings a year, our team, from, investor stuff. So, the investor business out there, it really can help bless a typical real estate agent, add to their business. And you've kind of proven that out.
Yeah, I love working with investors. They have a mindset. Basically, Joe, is this deal going to make me money at the end of the day? They don't care what the furniture looks like. They don't care, about anything other than, what you see here, or can you prove to me that we're going to make some money at the end of the day? And that's all they care about. So it's to me,
Yeah.
I enjoy that more than, shuffling some people around in my car, looking at 10 houses and then putting an offer in, hopefully at the end of the day.
Yeah. I remember doing an investment deal years ago, and the seller, older woman, her husband had passed away a couple years before that, and she said, "Hey, the car in the garage goes with the house." And I said,
Mm.
"Oh, okay." And went out in the garage. It was a 1957 Chevy. It just, you never know it too in some of these investment deals, what comes with it, what you're going to find, what's going to work out. Have you ever had any experiences like that?
A few years back, we were buying a property, and it was actually a subject to property. We put no money down, and there was a tenant in there, and that was the issue, and so we had to evict them, and that took a few months. And these tenants left a giant pig in the garage. It was their
Oh,
pet. Yeah, it was their pet. And we had them evicted, and to the point where, which is really rare for me, because I usually get them out before the sheriff comes, but the sheriff came and actually, locked them out of the house, like you see on YouTube, and I have some YouTubes on that as well. Um, but they left the pig, and I kept calling them. This was like a week later, and I told my business partner and his wife, I said, what do you guys want to do with the pig? Because I can tell you what I want to do. I want to have a barbecue in the backyard and invite everybody and have a good, feast. And my partner's wife says, "Oh no, you can't do that." So she's frantically, calling around animal shelters, rescues, and all that stuff. Had somebody lined up, and then they actually came back and picked up the pig. So that was good. But we had been taking care of the pig for about a week for them.
wow. That's
Yeah.
interesting. That's funny. Yeah, you hear all kinds of crazy stories, right? Hey, talk about your meetup. I've been to your meetup. I've spoken at your meetup. Geez, I've been on your podcast. Talk about your meetup and your podcast a little bit, and how people can find that stuff and plug in.
The meetup is on meetup.com. It's once a month, usually at the end of the month. Last week on a Monday. And we changed the location recently because we had rain in California, believe it or not. So we had some rain, so we had to bring it indoors. But my meetup is focused on that individual investor, the one that may be starting out, the one that like yourself, that's been doing real estate for a long time. And I want you guys, the young and the experienced, to meet each other and to talk and to say, okay, this is what you should do. This is what I did. This is what's going on right now. It's really a networking meeting. The first half hour is networking, and then I actually have a speaker, and speaker speaks for about an hour or so on different topics, like multifamily investing. And then after that is literally just networking. And I get a lot of interest and a lot of calls, a lot of follow up from that, because I always tell everybody that I'm available to meet with you for an hour. All that I want you to do is buy me a cup of coffee or buy me lunch. I prefer lunch. And so my lunch schedule is pretty full during the week. In fact, like yesterday, I had a lunch and a coffee yesterday. So I was good all day yesterday.
Yeah.
So yeah, so anyway, that's the meetup. And the podcast, I do a podcast every Thursday at 4 o'clock. It's called The New and Experienced Investor, and it is with one of my mentees. And I've been training him since COVID. He was on a Zoom call with me on COVID, and it was like deer in the headlights type situation. And I'm looking at him going are you there? Is that, some avatar or something? And he finally speaks up. He says, "Yeah, I'm here." And I go, why are you here? I like to engage people. And so he says, "Oh, this is what I'm looking to do." I go, "Okay, come buy me coffee or lunch." He bought me lunch. We talked. He was in a band and he was touring. And obviously during COVID, they shut everything down. So, what do you do for income? So I got him quickly involved with wholesaling. I taught him how to wholesale property. He got a property like in the first 3 months. He ended up selling it to me and my other business partner. We ended up flipping. He made $30,000 on that deal. And he said that he was just so amazed on, what I could teach him and what he could do with real estate, that he's still with me today. And we partner up with fix and flips as well.
Nice. Yeah, he's a great guy. I like him a lot. You're a co-host on your podcast, so people need to check you out. That's for sure. So let's give them a reason right now why they should check you out. One of the things I wanted to talk about this morning and get in a little bit deep in the weeds on this is creative financing, right? I think we're in a changing real estate market right now. Traditional financing might not be the way to buy real estate or the things to do. And you need to have some other tools in your toolbox. Over 30 years, I've bought real estate, as I know you have, but I bought single family, 4-unit, 40-unit, 60-unit, 100 and 400-unit apartment complexes with little and no money down. And I know your experience is vast like that as well. And I believe 100% that we are entering a market, if we're not in it already, where these types of techniques and systems are going to work well. What's your thoughts around that?
I agree totally. And, I am a real estate broker, so I have access to the MLS, and I always have a search for little or no money down is what I call my search. And I happen to have a client call me yesterday, and she's getting a divorce, and she wants to buy something. She doesn't want to rent anymore, so she wants to buy something. And I actually looked in Orange County, and in Orange County, it's a very tough market for creative financing because the properties are so expensive around here. But I actually found a property in a condominium in Huntington Beach where the seller only wanted 10% down, which is like pretty good. It's not no money down, but it's little or no money down. It's 10%. And what people should know is you don't have to qualify for the other 90%. If the seller is advised correctly, then yes, they're going to want to vet you to make sure that you can make that payment, whatever it is at the end of the day. But it's all negotiable. It's like, okay, I'm going to give you 10% down on this $600,000 condo. Okay. So I can come in with 60 grand, and then, what about the payments? Okay, let's do payments at, I always like to start low. Let's do payments at 2%. And of course they're going to say higher. And then, we'll negotiate it to like 4 or 5% around there. and then it's 30-year financing, and then maybe due in 7, 10 years. So whatever you can get, that's the negotiation part of it. I would like to get it for 2%, 30 years fixed. That would be awesome if I could do that. I'd do that. I'd live there a couple years. I'd keep it and either rent it out, or I would do some creative financing around that creative financing as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. There's so many different systems and techniques that you can use. I use one particular tool and I've used it multiple times over the years and it works every time. And it creates a win-win for the seller and for the buyer. But I bought a deal last year, Joe, that the seller's holding a second mortgage at 0% interest with no payments for 10 years. You know, and I've told people that and they go, that's impossible. What's your thoughts on that?
No, anything's possible, especially when you're negotiating and you have to figure out what's the motivation on the other side, or what the pain points are on the other side. That's why you have to talk to people in person. That's
Yeah.
something that at the end of the day, we've got the AI revolution coming around. AI is not going to really affect the real estate industry. I'm thinking, other than, yeah, you're probably going to be able to put your property on the MLS, track paperwork and all that stuff. But when it comes down to negotiation, that's a face-to-face thing. I'm
Yep.
looking at Mike right now and I'm saying, okay, look, Mike's got, I know it's a background, but he's got a nice place that he's living in, or, maybe that's a workplace or whatever. And I go, Mike looks like he's been here a while. He's more sophisticated. I'm literally sizing Mike up, before I even start the conversation. Hey, Mike, I'm interested in buying your 10 unit complex. What's going on with your life? Do you need this money? I mean, I ask, it's like,
Yeah.
do you need this money to survive on for the next, 30, 40 years, whatever you think your lifespan is? Are you looking to pass this along to your relatives, to your siblings, to your children, whatever? I think about all that stuff and find out, okay, what's the motivation here?
Right.
If Mike doesn't need the money, then, a 10-year, no payment for 10 years, 0% interest, because Mike just wants to get rid of this headache in his life. He doesn't want to, wake up every morning and have to deal with that. Then great. Then Mike says great. So yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. It goes back to the one thing Robert Allen used to say, find the don't wanters, right?
Mhm.
Those sellers that are don't wanters. And those are the easiest deals to structure. And it comes down to control, right? Not ownership, but it comes down to being able to control that asset and have the terms that, are great win-win terms for both the buyer and the seller.
Yeah, my mentee, I taught him how to do wrap loans, and a wrap loan is basically when there's a loan underneath, like let's say a first trust deed. He bought the property and then he sells it to a third party, and then he takes and puts basically a second trust deed on there, but he wrapped the first one around it. And the second trust deed was coming due. It was a short period of time. It was like 3 years, and the new owner of the property had to pay him $30,000, and he was asking me like, "You think she's going to pay?" And I go, "I don't know. I didn't deal with her. You dealt with her." And he goes, "I don't think she's going to pay." And last week he told me he got a check for $30,000 on that deal. So yeah, that's awesome. Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I remember one time, we bought a deal on, we did a subject to deal with a seller. Seller was in trouble, needed to get out. We, I think it cost us $2,600 to take over the real estate, you know, and at the time it was $175,000 townhouse, back before prices got uh, ungodly, right?
Yeah.
And then we turned around and we took that property that we did a subject to on, uh, paying $2,600, down to take over the property. We turned around and sold it on land contract to another buyer, and she gave us $30,000 as a deposit.
Mhm.
So, it's amazing how you get caught in the middle on some of this stuff. You have control of that real estate. You have the ability to buy it, sell it, lease it, fix it, flip it, do whatever you want with it. And, that $2,600 we made 1,000 times on, right? By um, flipping it to this other buyer. Well, then shortly after that, the buyer defaulted, couldn't pay the mortgage anymore, and just left
Mm.
and abandoned the 30,000. We sold it again to another buyer,
Yeah.
a couple years later. So, it's amazing when you're in that field and in the stream of things going on, the different deals you can put together. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. There's so many different ways to make money in real estate. Just it's really mind blowing. And if you find one, and you find a niche that you like, and you just keep at it, you'll be very successful.
yeah. Is it any different today buying real estate creatively than it was 50 years ago, Joe?
No, no, it's pretty much the same. It's all about the motivation on both sides, and the pain points, basically. I call them. It's just like the situation I told you about the pig. The lady was getting foreclosed on. Her sister was living in the property. She was supposed to give the property to her sister, but her sister was, not a good person, wasn't making the payments. So they went to foreclosure, and we took it out of foreclosure. Had to pay some money to do that. But she basically said, she threw her hands up in the air and said, "Here, you guys can have it. I don't want to deal with this. I don't want to deal with my sister anymore. You can have it." So, we took on that pain point. And yes, it took us a while to get her out of there. But we ended up going in, rehabbing and flipping it. And I think we made 100,000 on that property.
Yeah, it's amazing, and I think people negate the fact that it's possible, right? And which that leaves a lot of room in the playing field for other people to take advantage of those types of deals. So
Yeah, it's possible. It's still possible. I know this is probably going on YouTube and stuff, but you have to stop listening to the negative people on YouTube. I've been listening to people literally for 10 or more years saying that the world is going to end. Real
yeah,
estate is going to crash. Well, here we are. We're still at the top of the market, and it has not crashed.
yeah,
So, I mean, I'm old enough. I've lived through three of those crashes. I do not see a crash around the corner at all.
yeah,
I do
yeah.
not see it.
No, I think, there's no doubt we're in a changing cycle right now. And Joe, you and I both know there's no geniuses in this business. There's only market cycles. And we are right on the brink of going into the upswing. And I think that there's going to be a lot of opportunity moving forward for people, whether you've been sitting on the sidelines thinking, I want to get in real estate, now's the time, or you've been in real estate saying, hey, I want to scale my business. So wherever you sit in the mix, today's the day. Get involved, pull the trigger. 2026 is going to be a big year in real estate.
I think so as well. And the geniuses are they're there. They're you, you know, they're Mike, because you're in the trenches and you know what you're doing and you've had the experience, and you can see kind of the crystal ball going into the future. Um, that those are the type of people like yourself that you should be seeking out if you're interested in doing anything like this in the future.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, Joe, tell people how they get a hold of you if they want to talk to you about your brokerage business, or learn some creative financing strategies.
I'm really easy to get a hold of. I do YouTube channel, I do Instagram. My website is joehoms.com. It's got all my information on there. It's got the ability to schedule an appointment with me on my website. You can call me directly, 949-394-0149. It's real easy to get a hold of me. Just reach out. Go to my website. That's probably the easiest. Joe Holmes.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll have that. We'll have your contact information in the show notes. But hey, Joe, when is your next meetup?
It's at the end of the month. Let me pull up the exact date here for you. And it's on Meetup. Oh, let me go to the right calendar here. It's on the 29th at 6 p.m. And it's at a restaurant called Knollwoods, and that's off of Sand Canyon in Irvine.
Okay.
6 o'clock, and that is what I call my crystal ball event. So each end of year, I predict what's going to happen for the next year, and we're going to go over what I said last year, which I didn't get very close on one prediction, and that's because Jerome Powell is still the Fed. If he was out of there, my prediction would have come true. But then I will predict what's going to go next year. It's actually a really fun event. It's just like me guessing what's going to happen next year, because as well as I do, people look at us and they say, okay, what's going to happen in the future? So I took it as a learning event, and I'm going to predict to see what happens, and I hold myself accountable every year by going over what I said last year.
Well, I'm going to be there to listen to your predictions this year. That's for sure. So.
Okay.
Hey, Joe, thanks for being here this morning. I appreciate you. I am going to move you out and say goodbye to everybody.
Okay. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Hey, you bet. You have a great day. We'll catch up soon. And our mastermind is next week on the 9th. Yeah.
Okay.
So, all right. We will see you soon.
Okay. Take care.
You too. Have a great day. Bye. Hey, everybody. You know what? It is always fun to talk about creative financing, little or no money down deals, especially when you have the conversation with somebody who's been doing it longer than you. And, I've used creative financing strategies for 30 years. Joe's used them for 50 years. It just shows you that these tools, these techniques are timeless and can be used over and over and over again in what you do. You may be a traditional real estate buyer. You may be somebody who's been wanting to get into real estate, whatever. It doesn't matter. To have these tools in your toolbox that you could call on or use whenever you need them. There's going to be those situations. And some of the best techniques out there are when you can marry traditional purchases with non-traditional purchases and come together. So some of those can be the best deals you can find. So if you're somebody who's looking to dig in a little bit more, learn a little bit more, I have a master class coming up next week, December 9th. I am doing a master class at 5 o'clock Central Time, where I'm going to spend a couple of hours for free just teaching you a technique and a system that I've used over and over and over again to buy millions of dollars worth of real estate, everything from single family to 400 unit apartment complexes. I'm going to teach you where to find those deals. I'm going to teach you how to find them. I'm going to teach you what to say to sellers, how to approach sellers, how to talk to sellers, the right questions to ask, what you should care about, and how you create a win-win structure. Then I'm going to give you a contract for the one system, one technique that I currently use. And I'm going to work with you and help you stay accountable to taking some action and activity in order to grow your real estate portfolio in 2026. If you own one piece of real estate, you're better off than most of the American population. If you own 5 pieces of real estate, you're going to retire very comfortably. So where do you want to be over the next year or over the next 5 years? This can be a very slow scaling business. It can be a very fast scaling business, however you want to do it. But join us at that master class. The link will be in the show notes for you to register, but it'll be at masterclass.multifamilyinvestmentsecrets.com. And we will look forward to seeing you there. Have a great week, everybody. If I can answer any questions or do anything, don't hesitate to reach out.